Hello my darlings and welcome back or welcome to Marion K Tarot. So I hope you're all well. I know it's been a while since I've posted anything. But just now what I wanted to do is I've been thinking about making this video for quite a while. And I didn't really know how to start it. I mean, do I ever know how to start any of my videos? But there you go, it is what it is. And it's one of the more difficult subjects when we're talking about tarot. But as a professional reader with so many years experience, it's frightening. You know, I've been reading since I was a teenager, and that progression, you know, it progresses through the different types of people that you read for. You know, in my case, it was I started off like reading for friends in high school, and then, you know, kind of gradually moved on, and you kind of the more you advance in your tarot journey, the more different people that come into your space, come into your life, who want a reading or find out that you're a reader and think, oh, can I get a reading? Sure, no problem. And the more, I don't want to say older you get, but the more experienced you get, how I've found it personally is it's as if the universe, greater power, higher power, law of attraction, whatever you want to call it, I've found that they bring people to your life or clients to your life that you can help, and you're not really sure why it happens or how it happens, but it just does. So recently I have had a lot of clients who have been dealing with grief. I know that word, oh no, which is something that particularly in Western society, it's quite a taboo subject. You know, it's getting better, but I think it's still quite kind of hush hush. You know, it's like death and grief. It's not mutually exclusive, you know, because you can feel grief for a number of different things. It doesn't have to be because somebody has passed away. There's just been, I think collectively, there's just been so much loss. If you know me, you know, personally, I've had very recently had experience of it, and we going through that process again. Like my I don't know, what do I say, my life is tarot, but if you live and breathe tarot, then you know that's like your support network, you know, along with friends, family, etc. But I immediately go to tarot. Yes, it's my job, but it's so much more than that to me, because I don't think that you can really truly appreciate the power of tarot unless you fully, you know, wholeheartedly jump into it. Now that doesn't mean to say that you read every day. You know, you don't have to be a professional reader. You can, you know, you can do it as a hobby, but you know, you personally, to get the most out of the experience, then you put your heart and your soul into it. But that's just me. You know, if you've got a different opinion and it works for you, then that's great. Those of you who know me know I'm not any kind of like gatekeeper or anything. You know, I'm very much like, you do you. If it works for you, then fantastic. That being said, I think it's a process. Is a helping the process of my own personal grief, and seeing the process for clients, and just different cards that have been coming up in readings where it indicates a loss, it indicates grief, in various different forms. And I think that, you know, there's some cards that automatically jump to mind, you know, like maybe like the let's see, the Five of Cups or the Three of Swords. You know, it's indicating a loss. Or the Five of Pentacles. You know, the five cards in general can indicate loss. But in this video, what I wanted to discuss in particular is the fours in tarot, and how I personally have seen them coming up for myself and for others, and just my thoughts, just, how you have the random thoughts in your mind, and it kind of circles and circles, and you either journal it out or you want to just speak it out. So this is almost going to be like I don't know, like my kind of internal brain ramblings, but talking them out. And if any of you are sitting watching this thinking, oh hell, where's she going with this? Honest truth, I don't know where I'm going with this. So if you want to stick around and buckle up for the ride through my many crazy thoughts, then let's go for it, shall we? Okay, so the fours in tarot, how I see the fours. You've got obviously the four minor arcana for each of the suits, and you have the Emperor and Death, because Death is 13, card 13, so 1 and 3 in numerology, 4. That's how I get to that. Again, if you do something different, then, you do you. If you want to put it in the comments below, then I'm always open to hearing different thoughts and different ideas behind how you work things out. So, what I did was, I get my giant cards, mainly hide myself, because I don't know how comfortable this is going to be, how comfortable a conversation this is going to be for me. I have very little water in my astrology chart, and again, if anybody knows me, you will know that cups are my least favourite suit, because Marion really tries hard not to do emotions. I am not a naturally let's get into the feels kind of person. I am trying to get better, with the help of some wonderful water signs that are in my life, but I struggle. But anyway, we're going to try. So what will we start with? Major, minor? What do you think? Major, minor, major, minor? Right, we'll go with major. Right, so the first card would be the Emperor. Okay, so in relation, oops, that'll be the Death card, just fell, oopsie. So the Emperor, how does the Emperor show up in regards to grief? In any form, but I think as a disclaimer, I am predominantly going to be looking at these cards from the perspective of looking at them in relation to how we see it if somebody's passed away, right? Or if somebody is perhaps nearing the end of their life, right? Because I think it's one of the really difficult topics to talk about. It's just really difficult, and yes, I'm stalling. Okay, so the Emperor, how does he show up? So if we think of some words, to do with the Emperor, right? So it's like he's the epitome of authority. Okay, he is like the head guy, if you like, but not necessarily gender specific, but he is like on top of his game. He's the person, he sits in his throne there. Emperors are generally higher than kings. And represented by Aries, you can see the ram, so it's the first sign of the astrological wheel, and Ariel's the first house in astrology, so it's all about I am. Aries motto is I am, so I am in control. I am in control of my person, I am in control of myself, I am in control of my passions. Aries is a fire sign, so the Emperor is a fire card. So, if you think of all the things that the Emperor, or like the suit of fire, suit of wands embodies, it's a bit passion, it's a bit, getting things done, it's a bit, he's just basically, he's the person that is in control. He's like the person who if everything's going wrong, then he's okay. You know, he's the person that everybody else looks to. You know, it's like, right, it's fine. And very much can come up as a father figure. So if there's maybe like being a father figure, somebody you associate in that role who has passed, and this card comes up, then that can often be an indicator of the grief that somebody's going through, you know, the loss of that person in their life. That father figure, father, dad, you know, that's the person, their person. So that's one of the ways that he can show up. And it's difficult, you know, when that person that you see in that kind of authoritative position, and it's not always like to oppress. Sometimes it can be. Sometimes, you know, if that person has passed, there can sometimes be a relief, you know, depending on the situation, the circumstances of how your life has gone and how your relationship has went with that person. But in regards to grief, then it can be like the not only that person passing, but also, you know, you as a person dealing with the grief and holding the grief. It can be like you're no longer in control. You know, something so difficult to comprehend has happened, something that's totally rocked your throne of power, if you like, you know, your internal power, then that's, you know, that's like something that can show up, you know, as grief. And the grief of, well, how am I going to, because nothing's going to be the same again. So the empire, if you like, so if we say like your life is correlated to an empire, then it's fundamentally changed, because one of the main players in your family dynamic has left, you know, and it could be sudden and it could have been expected, but it's still a shock, and it's still a massive change. So how do you deal with that? So that's a way that the Emperor can show up in regards to grief. So the next card is Key 13, Death. Okay, now death is, I know, you know, you don't have to go nuts at me in the comments, you know, below. Death is almost universally accepted as a change, you know, the end of something and the beginning of something new. And 9 times out of 10, it is not actual death. However, I've seen it coming up to represent an actual physical death, the physical loss of someone, something, an animal that you love very much, that the client loves very much, that I myself love very much. It's Scorpio energy. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto and traditionally Mars. So if you take the Mars correlation, the Emperor and Death have got that other similarity, because in traditional astrology both of them are ruled by Mars. But Scorpio is a water sign. So Death is a card of water. So it's about your emotions. So how does death show up in grief? Well, it can be, as I say, the physical death of someone, or it can be, again, the death of your life as you know it. You know, the abrupt ending of your life as you know it, and that can be the initial shock of a person passing or a situation ending. Again, I'm looking at it mostly specifically for the side of it being a physical loss, a physical death. So it's no always, it's no easy, you know. It's to admit that everybody knows we're not going to live forever. You know, what's that famous phrase? It's like the only two constants in life are death and taxes. So yeah, but it's difficult, it's hard, it's dark, it's challenging, and we don't really know, we don't know how to deal with it, because every bereavement is different and every grief journey is different. And you could maybe be talking to somebody, or I could be talking to a client, or you could be talking to a client, and they've maybe lost a sibling, and you as a reader, you could have lost a sibling, but it's not the same, because you're not the same as the client, and the person, the sibling that they lost, is not the same as your sibling. So you don't know that relationship, you don't know what that relationship was like. And it is totally different circumstances, you know, how they passed. It might have been in natural causes, it might have been, you know, under brutal circumstances, you know, where it was shocking, it was a shocking event. So yeah, so when the death card shows up, just bear that in mind. You know, sometimes it really can indicate a physical death. And with regards to grief, it can be the start of the new thing, can be the start of the journey of grief, because you know, and if you even look at the card, I mean, away you out in the background, you know, you've got the rising sun, you know, so there is an indication of a journey. And whether that's a journey to when the person has passed, you know, whether it's a journey to the other side, spirit world, wherever you believe, you know, if you don't believe in anything, then it could just be the end, you know, but it could be, it's like a dawning of a new day. And those initial days after somebody has passed, I don't know about anybody else watching this, but there's that moment, and it's almost like when the sun's just coming up and you wake up, and there's just a few seconds where you don't remember. You know, you don't remember that there's this heavy, you know, this heaviness to you, and it's not that you forget the person's past, but it's like it doesn't consciously hit you. You know, there's just this wee window where everything feels peaceful, at least in my experience, and in the experiences some clients that I've dealt with over the years. So that's how death can show up. So that could even be, if you consider it, the beginning of the journey of grief, because it's been the ending of your life, and then the beginning is your journey to process the ending and the loss of that person. Okay, God, this is really cheery, isn't it? I hope you're still with me. 18 minutes in. Right. So, then we go into the minors. So the first card, and this is a card that, if you've been reading tarot for any length of time, you'll have experiences, and whether it's you getting a reading for somebody else, because, see, a tarot card reader, I love going and getting a reading for somebody else. I actually love that. Because, yeah, I can read for myself, but actually, I really love going and getting a reading. There's that curiosity where, like, oh, what will somebody else see in the cards? You know, what will somebody else pick up? That's just me. Well, I think it's quite a lot of readers. You know, it's like we kind of like it's almost like a busman's holiday, if you like. You know. So the first card I'm coming to is the Four of Swords. Okay, so the Four of Swords, keywords: rest, take a rest. You know, you need to take some time out. You need to, you know, you're doing too much, your mind's racing, yada yada yada. You know, looking in the tarot book, and that's pretty much what they'll say. However, there's something that's always, and I've not read every tarot book by any stretch of the imagination, you know, but for me, in particular with the Waitsmith image, this is a tomb. You know, that's, to me, I see that as a tomb, as a soldier's tomb. And if you go and visit any, like, kind of, like, particularly like the old, like, cathedrals, you know, up and down the UK, maybe further afield as well, you will see knights' tombs like this. You will see the tombs of kings, you know, with a stone effigy carved of them, and then within here is where their body is. So the rest thing for me, whilst I get it, I've always seen this card as almost like rest in peace. You know, so R.I.P. You know, it's something that we say when somebody passes. You know, this can be an indicator of someone passing, and in actual fact, when there has been numerous occasions where I've been doing readings, and when death and the Four of Swords show up together, now I'm not saying every single time, that would be ridiculous, but a large proportion of the time when I see these cards come out in a reading close together, either side by side, up or down, you know, wherever, it generally, it has indicated a physical death. And whilst I will not tell a client that, you know, because that's not my place to say that, because that's just part of my code of conduct, my ethics, if you like. I'm not going to turn around and say to a client, you know, it's looking a bit dicey here. The only time I can recall ever discussing this as that combination was when I had a lovely client come to me, and she was terminally ill, and she was such a lovely lady, and she came to me, and these two cards came out, and they came out next to each other. So it was like a place to death card down, and then a place to Four of Swords down, and they were right next to each other. And there was loads of other cards as well, you know, because it was like a, I don't know, what, 12 card reading or something. And I gasped a little bit, but under my breath. And you know, so I have, hands up confession, I avoided the two cards. I avoided looking at them, and I looked at the other cards, and I was given the reading in that, and she looked at me very clearly, and she was like, "Mary," and I was like, "Aha." She was like, "Don't be afraid to say what you see." And I'm like, "Sorry?" I'm like, "Oh, no." And I'm like, "Oh my God, you're such a liar, Mary." And she was like, "No, please." And I was like, "Right, okay." I goes, "Well," and I said, "Are you keeping all right?" You know, so, you know, "You keep him okay, you know, I can't read about health or anything," but, and she looked, she didn't look ill, right? She didn't look ill, and no, everybody that is ill looks ill, you know. And then she said to me, she was like, "Marion, I have a terminal illness, and I have been given a prognosis of a few months." And I was like, "I see. Okay." So my mind starts racing, and it's like, right, do not react to this. You're a professional, but you're also a human being, Marion, you know. And I was like, "Okay, so how do you want to proceed?" And I put it to the client. I was like, how would you like to proceed with this? And everything else was so, it was so amazing. You know, she had like the 10 of cups, and like the sun card, and, you know, it was all so, the reading was so vibrant, apart from these two cards, and the energy was lovely. And she was like, "Well, it's almost like everything that you've told me so far is happening because it was like I could see like her going on trips, and it was like almost like, and I recall actually saying, you know, I was like, it's as if you're going through a bucket list, you know, like, as a past remark, you know, just a passing remark, and she started laughing at that. And she didn't say anything else in regards to that. So I was just like, oh, you're going to have a great time, blah, blah, blah. And she did have a great time, you know, and we had it was such an uplifting reading despite that, because she had made peace, going back to, you know, going back to the rest in peace thing. You know, she had made peace with the fact that she was going to pass. And then moving on for that, you know, we had a lovely, I think the reading went to about 2 hours or something, you know, because it was just one of the readings. And she had just a lovely aura about her. She had a lovely spirit, this woman. And she did pass. And her husband contacted me, and he said he thanked me for not treating her differently after she had told me the fact that she had a terminal illness and she didn't have long to live. And he said that had gave her great comfort. And yeah, that had gave her great comfort. And it was just one of the things where, you know, it was one of the kind of things where, like, it was like a reminder, like, why I do what I do, you know. So it was a rather long-winded story, my apologies. But like I said, I've got no idea where this is going. I'm just turning the camera on and blethering. So yeah, so the Four of Swords. So consider that in the realms of grief and someone passing. It can be the initial stages. It can even indicate perhaps a funeral, you know, or part of the grief journey where you just go into yourself and you just take that time for yourself to try and process it in a quiet environment, in a quiet space. Alright, so what we get next? So, the Four of Wands. I hear you say, what has this got to do with grief, Marion? How can you put the Four of Wands? Because it's a happy card, it's a celebration, it's a wonderful card. Yes, it is. And I thought to myself, you know, when I'm kind of thinking, how does the Four of Wands talk about grief? Where in the Four of Wands do we get an understanding of grief? And I sat with the card and I looked at it, and there's a celebration. So with regards to grief, it's in the grieving process, in the process of somebody passing. You know, could this represent a funeral? You know, or the celebration of the person who's passed life, or that strange euphoria that you feel sometimes and you're not quite sure where it's coming from. It's almost like this kind of manic euphoria, but I'm not really sure of that. I need to think more about that. But for me, it's like, well, there's flowers there, you know, there's garlands, there's people, you know, and whilst, like, you're not going to have people like waving bouquets about. However, if we consider it, right, so we've got the stage, and then we've got the Four Wands, and then we've got this castle in the background. Castle, mansion, fort, whatever you want to call it. It's just occurred to me there that I know, like, a lot of people are not religious, and I'm not religious at all. I think if I walked into a religious building, I'd probably burst into flames, but that's by the by. But I do remember one particular line at a funeral, that a religious funeral I was at, and it went something like, and God said there are many rooms in my castle or mansion or something. And I'm like, well, Is that maybe what that is? Could we look at it like that? Could we look at it in the context of the people with the flowers are our loved ones that are already on the other side, and they're welcoming the person who's passed, who we have lost, but they're welcoming them back? You know, could that be a form of the celebration? You know, could that be an aspect of it? It's a difficult one. You know, it's a fire card, so it's about passions and it's about energy and it's about having energy. But that just, for me personally, remember, these are very much my personal views. You know, you do not have to agree with them, anything. I'm just basically rambling, you know, like try to process stuff in my own here and feel the need to do it in a YouTube video. There you go. So yeah, so that could be the Four of Wands. So the next one, the Four of Cups. So Four of Cups, no seeing what's there. Only being consumed with the Three Cups in front of us. No seeing the Fourth Cup. You know, like being a bit indolent. Just being a bit fed up. Just being a bit like, I'm in a huff and I'm not talking to anybody. And if I can't get what's in the Three Cups, then I'm no interested in this Fourth Cup. So it's about emotions, because it's cups, because it's water. So this person's sitting there and they're just sitting closed off because they've got their arms crossed, they've got their legs crossed, they're basically like, piss off, I don't want to talk to anybody. And that is a very real stage of the grieving process, of grief. Sometimes you just don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want to see anybody. You don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want to go anywhere. You're quite happy in your own wee place that you have made. You know, whether it is sitting under a literal tree in nature, whether it's sitting in your bed, whether it's, you know, just going somewhere on your own where you don't want to know anybody. It could be you go somewhere where nobody knows you and you can just be anonymous. So that's an aspect of it, because it's like your emotions are so heavy that you just don't understand how you can possibly go on. You know, the very notion of even moving for that spot is just, it's just too much for you to deal with emotionally, because of the heaviness of this grief that you're holding on to. So that's something that we can consider as well. It's not always just somebody, I don't care. You know, it doesn't need to be something that's, you know, and the thing is, I mean, like, could that Fourth Cup be like the person who's passed reaching out to you or reaching out to your client and saying, look, I know I'm physically gone, but I'm still here. Look, we still love each other. We've still got emotions for each other. Just something to consider. So then finally, which you'll be pleased to know if you've stayed with me, thank you if you have. So the last one, Four of Pentacles. So how does this show up in grief, I hear you ask? Well, traditionally, the Four of Pentacles is about holding on to your money, holding on to physical possessions, no wanting to share, no, you know, it's like what's mine is mine and that's it. And, you know, just not being prepared to, you know, just I've made this, all this stuff is mine, whether it's money, whether it's like something physical, whether it's physical property, etc. This is mine and nobody's getting it. So just keep away. When it comes to grief, and bear in mind Pentacles is earth, so it's something physical. Is this you holding on to your need for this person that's passed or the thing that's gone to still be there? Could this be considered a card of denial? Is is stated in like one of the 5 steps of grief. One of them is denial, because you're in denial that the person is gone. And it's like, well, no, this isn't happening. You know, no, this person's still here. I just can't physically see them, but I know they're still here. Or you're holding on so tight to your grief that it's showing up and it's presenting in your physical body through perhaps a physical illness, a physical manifestation. So your grief is physically manifesting within your body. So there could be like kind of health concerns, you know, the like aches and pains, the unusual aches and pains that you've never experienced before. It could be like, if you look at this so like you've got a pentacle there in your head, so it's like you could maybe get headaches because you're just not releasing your emotions. You know, you're refusing to release your emotions, or sometimes you physically can't release your emotions, or you're afraid to release your emotions because you don't know how that will physically affect you. The pentacle to the chest is holding your grief against your heart, holding it so that it does, just again being afraid to let go of that physical pain. You know, that physical grief, that just holding on to that grief, because sometimes it's like you'll maybe think that if I hold on to this grief, then it doesn't then I'm not going to hurt anybody else. I don't want to hurt anybody else with letting go of my grief and acknowledging my grief. Everyone's on the ground. You know, it could be, well, no, if I don't physically move, if I don't move forward, then I can stop time. Which again, and that can come into the kind of bargaining stage of grief, the grief journey. You know, you'll make bargains with yourself or with a higher power. You know, it's like, if I don't move, then nothing will happen. You know, and that's something else that can be considered again for the Four of Pentacles. You know, so think about the elements of the cards, the elements that the cards represent. So you've got your earth element, you've got your water element for your emotions, you've got your fire element for your passions and really big, strong emotions, things that take over. Then you've got your thoughts, the thoughts that can run away with you. Swords being air being of the mind. But again, you know, don't just consider it. Or you've got the Death card as the water element, and you've got the Emperor as the fire element. Now these these 6 cards, yes, they have got elemental dignities, they have got elemental correlations, but remember, any card can mean anything in the context of a specific reading. And if you open yourself up to that, then you can perhaps see that. And then in particular, when you move into the 5s, which are maybe more traditionally associated with difficulties, certainly as I said at the beginning, the 5 of Cups, you know, that's one of the kind of go-to cards to represent grief, loss, etc. The 5 of Swords, you know, it can be like losing a battle, if you like. The 5 of Wands actually having a battle. 5 of Pentacles, perhaps losing the battle or losing your physical properties. So they're kind of tend to be a bit lost, but if you just consider the step before that and look at the 4s and maybe see them in a different light, if you are reading for somebody who is going through this process, or you yourself are going through this process. Okie dokie, my darlings. So that's my wee thoughts on the 4s and grief. And I know it wasn't exactly the happiest video that I've ever put out in the world, but as I say, I felt compelled to make this. and I have not felt compelled to make a video for quite some time, as I'm sure you know. So if you've got this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate you watching and taking time out of your day, your night, or whenever in the universe, wherever you have watched this, you have come across this. I really appreciate it. Remember, if you want to book a reading with me, you can message me on Instagram, DM, it's just Marion K Tarot, and you can email me marionktarot@gmail.com. Just go onto my website. Again, it's marionktarot.com, and we can work together. Okay, my darlings, right, you take care, have a lovely time, and do something fun if you can. Just go and do it. Okay, bye-bye.